So let's start with the first category, general science misconceptions. There are three, and I could list a lot more, but with the time I have, these are the three I think most important, or the three that are most common, that present obstacles in our path in delivering this information and the skills to use it to the people that we work with. One misconception is that the outcome of good science is proof. The next is the causality error. And the last is the reification fallacy. So let me make that come alive for you in hopefully a useful way. The first myth, that the outcome of good science is proof. In fact, it's not, because there could always be another study that corrects that first finding or that previous finding. And so people who are, in my opinion, well educated in research and research critique would rarely use the word proof or prove in reference to a single study. The outcomes of good science are always provisional. That is, they're always conditional on the particular subjects, environment, the particular treatment, the preparation, all the details that define that instance of a study also constrain our ability to generalize those findings out to everyone everywhere. And that's why replications are so important in the scientific method. So one study can't prove anything. It's really about the preponderance of evidence. One study is added to the pile until the pile gets big enough that we simply are convinced, we believe. And then we stay on the balls of our feet, not on our heels where roots grow, but on the balls of our feet like a tennis player, ready to move to where the next group of studies lead us. They may find the same thing, and so we get more confidence in that finding, or they may move us slightly or even radically in a different direction. And nowadays, with the great technology that we have available to us to study healthy brains and other physiological events, we are learning about really shocking new findings that are propelling us into a different understanding than we've had before. So we're prepared for that. And in fact, when that happens, the first thing I say is, let's see if we can find some replications. Or this finding will influence me in a very provisional sort of way, a tentative sort of way. It's the best information we have right now, but we need to wait for replications to give us confidence in that finding. So the outcomes of good science are always provisional. The performance feedback revision loop that I talk about so often, behavior feedback revision, applies to science findings as well. They're always available for revision based on the feedback of the next study. And this defines what we call the self-correcting nature of science. That when you adhere to the scientific method, you also adopt the values of replications, giving confidence to your understanding of a phenomenon, and peer review. That before a study is peer reviewed, it's sent out to experts in that area who review it, and then they send back their advice about whether the study should be published as is. The report should be published as is, which is very rare. It almost never happens. Or more commonly, that it should be published after some review, or that it needs a very radical review of the reporting, perhaps the statistical analysis, or perhaps the description of the procedures or subjects. So I occasionally review for the Applied Behavior Analysis Journal, JABA, Journal of Applied Behavior Analysis. I also review for Zoo Biology. And I have yet to have an article sent to me for review that I didn't suggest some what I considered important revisions. So it leaves us with that question about, what is the state of our research, our body of research? And I think it was 2005, I'm not sure about the date, I'll double check that. Very important article came out questioning whether or not even the replicated studies were providing accurate information. And they found that most published research did not stand the test of replication, and even replications were often in disagreement with one another. So I've given you a YouTube video to listen to that's a really well done discussion of why even findings that result from the scientific method can be wrong. A lot of it has to do with the statistics that are used and the fact that the most common design, experimental group design, where you have a treatment group and a control group, the one we all learned, in our middle years in school, produces false findings, false positives. And when we rely too much on that design and statistics to designate whether a finding is real or not, there are going to be many false positives. And so again, that puts more weight on the need for replications, because although any particular finding may be incorrect or conclusion from that finding may be incorrect, it's the best information we have at this time. And they discuss that in this little 10-minute video.